Your brain is moving faster than your life, and you probably didn't even notice when it started. Think about it for a moment. Videos at 1.5 times speed, podcasts at 2 times, scrolling through dozens of clips in a few minutes. It feels efficient, even productive. But here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves. What happens to your mind when everything you consume is faster than reality itself? Because the strange part isn't that content got faster. It's that your brain quietly adapted to it. Now, normal conversations feel slow. Books require more effort. Silence feels uncomfortable. Many people think they lost discipline, mental focus, or motivation for personal growth. But the real explanation is much more surprising. Your brain has been trained to live at 2 times speed, and the world simply doesn't move that fast. And once you understand what this does to your attention, your productivity, and even your mindset, something powerful happens. You stop blaming yourself and start seeing the hidden system shaping your focus. By the end of this video, you'll understand why modern stimulation is quietly exhausting your brain, and more importantly, how to reset it before it steals your ability to think clearly, learn deeply, and live better. Most people think their attention span just got worse. But that's not actually what happened. Every day, without even noticing, you might tap that little 1.55 button, skip an intro, or fast forward through a slow explanation. It feels efficient, almost like a productivity hack. After all, faster content seems like better time management, right? But here's the quiet twist most people never see coming. The brain adapts to the speed you feed it. And once that adaptation starts, your entire mindset toward information begins to shift. Think about how this shows up in normal life. You open a podcast and immediately set it to 2 times speed. You watch YouTube videos while skipping pauses. Even audiobooks get accelerated. At first, it feels like a win for productivity and self-development. More knowledge in less time. But the brain isn't just absorbing information, it's learning a rhythm. And once your brain learns that rhythm, anything slower begins to feel wrong. That's the part most people miss. Your brain doesn't interpret this as a problem. It interprets it as a new standard of mental processing. In neuroscience terms, your mind constantly updates what it considers normal stimulation. So when the pace increases every day, the baseline shifts. Suddenly, a calm conversation feels slow. A book feels long. A thoughtful lecture feels painfully drawn out. It's not that your discipline or mental focus disappeared. Your brain simply recalibrated. Here's the uncomfortable insight hiding in plain sight. You didn't lose patience. Your brain was trained to reject normal speed. And once that training begins, it quietly starts shaping your habits, your learning style, even
This
your
place
personal
is
growth.
great, isn't it?
What feels like
Yeah,
harmless
very cozy.
efficiency
But my
may
mind is
actually be
just
rewiring
racing.
how you
I can
process the
see
world.
that.
And when millions of people are doing this at the same time, something bigger starts to happen. Something psychologists are only beginning to talk about. If this were just one person's habit, it wouldn't matter much. But look around for a second and you'll notice something strange. Almost everyone consumes information at accelerated speed now. YouTube at 1.5s, podcasts at 2 tabs, Instagram Reels, TikTok Shorts, jump cuts every 3 seconds. Content isn't just faster, it's compressed. And what started as a clever productivity shortcut quietly turned into a global habit, shaping how our mindset, attention, and mental focus operate every day. Psychologists and media researchers have started calling this phenomenon speed consumption culture. Information is now packaged like fast food for the brain. Quick, stimulating, and endlessly available. Platforms optimize for it because fast content keeps people scrolling. Creators optimize for it because attention is scarce. And viewers adopt it because it feels like smart time management. But the brain doesn't distinguish between efficiency and conditioning. It simply adapts. Picture a typical evening. Someone sits down to relax, opens YouTube, and watches 5 videos back to back at 1.5 times speed. Then they check TikTok for a few minutes, then a podcast at double speed while doing something else. On paper, it feels like high productivity and personal growth, learning faster, consuming more ideas. But internally, the brain is learning something else entirely. Stimulation must always be quick, dense, and constant. That's why this shift matters for self-development and discipline. When every piece of information arrives compressed, the brain stops tolerating slower forms of learning. Reading a thoughtful book like Deep Work by Cal Newport or Atomic Habits by James Clear suddenly feels harder than it should. Conversations feel longer. Silence feels uncomfortable. As someone once put it perfectly, we optimized content for speed and accidentally optimized our brains for impatience. And once impatience becomes the default mental rhythm, something deeper starts happening inside the brain itself. Something that explains why your ability to concentrate on meaningful work, creativity, and personal growth might feel different than it did just a few years ago. At first glance, this might look like a simple habit change, but inside the brain, something deeper is happening. Your mind runs on prediction and reward, two systems that quietly shape your mindset, your attention, and even your productivity. When information starts arriving faster every day, the brain recalibrates what it expects. And once that expectation shifts, your entire experience of focus begins to change in ways most people never consciously notice. The first mechanism at work is something researchers often describe as dopamine pacing. Dopamine isn't just the pleasure chemical people talk about, it's the brain's motivation signal. Fast content delivers frequent stimulation, tiny hits of novelty that keep your brain engaged. Over time, the brain starts expecting those quick bursts constantly. When something slower appears, a book chapter, a lecture, a deep conversation, your brain interprets it as understimulating, even if it's actually valuable for self-development and personal growth. The second mechanism is called predictive processing. Your brain constantly predicts what will happen next, and it prefers patterns it already knows. If you've trained your mind on rapid edits, jump cuts, and short clips, your brain begins to anticipate that rhythm everywhere. When reality moves slower, like reading a thoughtful passage from Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman or listening to a calm conversation, your brain misinterprets the pace as boredom. Not because the content lacks value, but because your mental system has been calibrated to speed. The third mechanism is what we might call attention compression. Instead of processing long, connected ideas, the brain becomes accustomed to short bursts of information. Think of it like scrolling through headlines instead of reading full articles. That's why many people today struggle to maintain mental focus for extended periods. Books feel slower, movies feel longer, even quiet moments feel strangely uncomfortable. And here's the important insight. Your brain didn't lose intelligence, it lost tolerance for slow stimulation. Once you see this pattern, a lot of modern behavior suddenly makes sense. The difficulty concentrating, the urge to check your phone, the restless feeling during silence, it all connects. But the real surprise comes next. Because the symptoms people experience from this shift are often mistaken for something completely different. Once this shift in brain speed begins, the effects rarely show up where people expect. Most assume they simply have less discipline, weaker mental focus, or poor time management. But look closer at everyday moments and you start to notice subtle signals. Standing in a line suddenly feels unbearable. Waiting for a web page to load feels strangely irritating. Even a slow elevator ride can trigger the urge to check your phone. It's not laziness. It's a brain that has been trained to expect stimulation every few seconds. This pattern appears in places people rarely question. Someone sits down to watch a movie and reaches for the phone halfway through. A conversation pauses for a few seconds and suddenly the mind drifts. A quiet moment appears and the instinct is to fill it immediately with notifications, scrolling, or background noise. The brain isn't broken. It's simply operating under a different rhythm now. The environment hasn't changed as much as the internal mindset that processes it. Many people mistake this for anxiety or lack of discipline in their personal growth journey. They try to force themselves to concentrate harder, blaming their productivity or assuming something is wrong with their ability to learn. But psychology tells a different story. When the brain adapts to high-speed stimulation, slower experiences feel empty by comparison. That's why activities that once helped self-development, like reading, journaling, or reflective thinking, would suddenly require more effort. Here's the quiet realization that shifts perspective. Nothing is wrong with the world. Your brain speed changed. Once you understand that, the frustration begins to make sense. The mind hasn't lost its ability to grow, learn, or develop deeper focus. It's simply adapted to a new pattern of stimulation. And when that pattern collides with the slower rhythm of real life, something else starts to emerge, a form of tension many people experience but rarely understand. Here's where the deeper psychological tension begins to appear. The modern brain has been trained to operate at high speed, but the real world still moves at human speed. Conversations unfold gradually, nature moves slowly, reflection takes time, creativity requires pauses. But when your brain has adapted to compressed stimulation, these natural rhythms start to feel uncomfortable. What once felt peaceful can now feel inefficient, even irritating. Think about activities that once helped build mental focus and personal growth. Reading a thoughtful book, taking a long walk without headphones, sitting quietly with your own thoughts. These are the environments where powerful ideas often emerge, the kind that shape your mindset and support real self-development. But when the brain expects constant stimulation, silence can suddenly feel like a problem that needs to be solved. This creates a subtle form of anxiety many people struggle to explain. The brain begins to interpret stillness as wasted time. The mind looks for something happening, anything to fill the gap. Notifications, scrolling, short videos, background noise. The cycle repeats so often that the brain forgets how to relax into slower experiences. And the result isn't better productivity. It's a constant sense of internal urgency. A brain trained for speed eventually struggles to exist comfortably in real life. That's the quiet irony behind modern productivity culture. We consume more information than ever before, yet deeper clarity becomes harder to access. The good news, however, is that this pattern isn't permanent. The brain learned this rhythm, which means it can also learn a different one. And the process of retraining your attention might be simpler than most people expect. The good news is that the brain is incredibly adaptable. The same system that learned to operate at high speed can also relearn how to slow down. But this doesn't require abandoning technology or becoming some kind of digital monk. What it requires is retraining the rhythm of your attention, one small habit at a time. In the world of self-development, this is where discipline quietly outperforms motivation. Start with something surprisingly simple. Watch one video per day at normal speed without touching the playback controls. It might feel strange at first, almost like the content is moving too slowly. That's not the video. That's your brain recalibrating. This tiny act begins restoring your natural mental focus, the kind required for meaningful productivity and long-term personal growth. The second reset is equally powerful. Read something uninterrupted for 10 minutes. Not headlines, not scrolling, a real page. Books like Deep Work by Cal Newport or The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel are excellent places to start. Reading trains your brain to stay with an idea longer, strengthening the mindset required for clear thinking and effective time management. Third, try walking without headphones or background audio. Just 10 minutes. No podcast, no music, just observation. At first, your mind might search for stimulation. That's normal. But something interesting happens when you give your brain space. Ideas begin connecting. Problems start organizing themselves. This is where creativity and genuine life lessons often appear. And if you're someone who feels constantly mentally overloaded, there's something worth mentioning here. Many people struggle with this pattern because their digital habits have quietly fragmented their attention and weekly structure. That's exactly why a growing number of readers have been exploring a framework called the Digital Hangover System: how to reset your mind, reorganize your week, and regain control of productivity. If the feeling of mental overload sounds familiar, there's a practical guide linked in the first pinned comment that walks through how to rebuild focus step by step. Because here's the deeper insight. Boredom isn't wasted time. It's the brain recalibrating its speed. When you allow moments of quiet, your attention slowly stretches again. Your productivity improves, your discipline strengthens, and your mindset becomes sharper. As we like to say here, stay quiet, stay sharp, stay in progress. But understanding the reset is only the beginning, because once you see how your attention has been trained, you start realizing something even more important about how modern stimulation quietly shapes your daily decisions. Now here's the real question. Now that you see what's happening to your attention, what are you going to do about it? Because understanding the problem is easy. Changing your habits is where discipline begins. Are you going to keep feeding your brain endless speed and stimulation? Or are you willing to slow things down just enough to regain your mental focus, your clarity, and the kind of mindset that actually supports long-term self-development? Think about your day for a moment. How often do you reach for your phone without noticing? How often do you skip, scroll, or accelerate something because patience feels uncomfortable? Those small moments shape your brain more than you realize. And the truth is simple: the quality of your attention determines the quality of your life. Your productivity, your creativity, your personal growth, all of it depends on how well you can control where your mind goes. So here's a challenge for you. Starting today, slow one thing down. Watch one video at normal speed. Read 10 pages without interruption. Take a walk without headphones. Give your brain space to breathe again. And if this conversation helped shift your perspective, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Because this channel exists for one reason: to help you build a stronger mindset, better discipline, and the kind of focus that allows you to live better, one idea at a time. And before you leave, there's one more piece you shouldn't ignore. Understanding how your brain adapts to speed is powerful. But there's another hidden problem modern stimulation creates that most people never see. I made a full video explaining it called The Hidden Cost of Constant Stimulation. If you want to truly reclaim your focus and productivity, that's the next video you should watch on your screen right now.